Today we're going to be talking about IT performance improvement, and I've kind of subtitled it Successfully Managing the Big Three. And there's a subtitle below that called Maximizing Your GPA, and we'll get to that in just a second. From an agenda perspective, I just put together a quick agenda. We've been through an introduction. I do want to cover a few minutes just talking about the problem statement that I think we're all facing, and then basically the focus of today is what's the answer to that problem. We're going to do a little bit of definition, especially with the word productivity, and then we're going to get right into really what are the big three, and how do we really manage your GPA. The problem facing most IT organizations today that I come in contact with, there's a multitude of them. What you see is increasing demand and growing backlogs. I think most IT organizations see that from all kinds of strategic initiatives, business survival, mergers and acquisitions, all kind of growing legislation or regulations that continues to be placed upon IT organizations. You also have challenges with technology absorption. How do we introduce new technology into our existing infrastructure and maintain what we've got going on and make all these applications and technology all work coherently? We've got ongoing business requirements, right? The business is after us to reduce our operating costs, improve our quality, improve our productivity. So we've got growing demands, technology absorption, really a strong desire to reduce the cost of the organization, and we're trying to do all that with frozen staffing levels. Well, a lot of organizations I deal with have freezes or reductions in their staffing, and they face a huge problem with a lot of intellectual and organizational knowledge leaving the organization because of retirements. So there's a lot of pressure on IT organizations to deal with lots of problems, yet continue to improve. So really, the answer to all those problems really is about improving your performance and your productivity, doing more and more effectively with the same or fewer number of people. That's the challenge for all of us. This presentation, the principles of this presentation apply to all of IT, but there is a little bit of a focus on application support. So just be aware of that as you go through, but the principles apply across the entire function. Okay, so why the focus on application support? Well, the largest part of most software budgets is actually supporting the infrastructure and supporting management. Typically, 65% of budgets are for software. The other part with application support is that 100% of the business is up and running on those applications. We have a lot of projects in flight, but the business doesn't run on those projects until they're implemented. So focusing on the actual applications that are in production is pretty critical. And from a support standpoint, compared to development, it's easier to get improvement. There's a faster return on investment because the turnaround cycles on maintenance activity is quicker than the turnaround cycles on projects. You've got a project that might last anywhere from a year to 2 years. You've got maintenance activities that can be measured in terms of hours. So the ability to improve the process and get faster return on maintenance activities exceeds that of new development. And also, those benefits are reoccurring. Once you put an improvement in place in a maintenance environment, it's there to stay. Improvements in projects are much harder to implement because the project teams tend to be, they get displaced after an individual project, and each project forms all over again with different people trying to develop and implement. Whereas a maintenance team, typically it's the same people, and the benefits are more easily be reoccurring. So that's kind of why we're focusing on application support at this standpoint. But again, the principles I'm going to talk about apply to all of IT. So in order to figure out how we improve productivity, I think the first thing we had to do is kind of define productivity. And today's definition is this: ability to consistently remove non-value added work, and I put in parentheses, or lesser value, and either reallocate the staff to value-added work or reduce the costs associated with the labor. Quite simply, what that means is to be able to free up our stressed resources to work on value-added projects that are moving the business forward and trying to grow the business. Not to take their focus off of the incidents and the problems that occur during the course of the day and move them towards the value-added activity. So that's our definition today. Reduce the non-value work, focus the resources on the value-added work. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, I kind of tried to consolidate all of it into three areas. And I asked myself after I put them together, could it really be that simple? Could it really be simple to say if I just did three things, I could really improve my productivity? And I did a little bit of research on the number 3. Just thought I'd throw that out there for a little bit of fun, because I picked number 3 because 3 happens to be a number of good fortune, and certainly we could all use good fortune. 3 represents a number of time, right? And we could all use more time. It represents past, present, and future, birth, life, and death, beginning, middle, and end. 3 is also a magical number in many fairy tales. Our work lives are sometimes fairy tales, so I thought that might be appropriate as well to kind of get us focused on 3. But probably the biggest reasons are 3 is an easy number to remember. But actually, what I believe is I've seen lots of organizations that the fewer items that people have to focus on, the better the results are. I go into organizations and look at their project portfolios, and I see cases where a project manager is trying to manage a dozen projects. And what happens is typically those projects all kind of extend, where if they could focus on 1 or 2, they could probably drive those to conclusion within the time frame and get the results we want to achieve. So one of the principles throughout is trying to really drive focus on the critical few that are going to get the biggest impact, and then go to the next set of critical few items. To try to impress the number 3 in your head, I came up with a few famous, memorable 3s that I thought might be appropriate here. And you're all kind of muted, but shout out the answers when you know them. Here's a famous 3 that I hope gets ingrained in your mind, and that happens to be the 3 Musketeers. So they found great success in working in 3. And here's certainly a pop group that found a lot of success working in 3s, the Bee Gees. I think we know who these guys all are. There was a lot of fun growing up with Huey, Dewey, and Louie. I think maybe one of the most famous 3s here is the Chipmunks, Calvin, Simon, and Theodore. Perhaps these guys are the most famous 3s of all, the Three Stooges. But when you leave the seminar, I hope you remember these 3. The big 3, okay? How to improve IT performance. It comes down to governance, process, and automation. Okay, that's the GPA. Governance, process, and automation. And what we're going to be talking about is how do we really measure and improve your GPA. Governance, process, and automation. So governance. What I've put together here for governance really is there's 3 major elements of governance: strategy, organization, and then policy. We're going to examine each one of those to some degree. Before I get into that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about